In Venezuela, the candidate registration process for the July 28th presidential election continues on its fifth and last day. In Malawi, President Lázaro Chakwera declared a state of disaster in 23 districts hit by a dry spell caused by El Niño. In Palestine, at least 9 people were reported to have been killed during a pneumatic bombing in the city of Deir Al-Balah in the center of the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Venezuela's National Electoral Council holds the fifth and last day of candidates' registration for upcoming 2024 presidential elections. After receiving the nominations, the electoral body starts to review the documents of each candidacy in order to verify that they are in accordance with the law and comply with current electoral regulations. This time, candidates Javier Bertucci, Benjamin Roseo, Claudio Fermin, and Luis Racho presented themselves before the highest electoral authority to officialize their registration as candidates for July 28th presidential elections. Elvis Amoroso, president of the National Electoral Council, congratulated the candidates for choosing the legal path. We celebrate and congratulate each of the candidates who have come here to the National Electoral Council in compliance with the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, the laws of our country, and of course also everything established in National Electoral Council regulations. In his registration speech, current presidential candidate Javier Bertucci for the Hope for Change Party pointed out that his government program mainly seeks national reunification and peace. Today I submit my government program of management, a program made responsibly with the best, a program that seeks reunification, that seeks tolerance, that seeks governability and national peace. We are convinced that any change that this party and this candidate wishes for this country must be in peace. In the way we are participating today, it must be electoral way. Benjamin Rauso, the candidate for the National Democratic Confederation Party, proposes working to solve the problems that affect citizens. I'm sure that in the coming days you will realize from my speeches that we are an opposing candidacy, different and independent, that will not be afraid of criticizing what needs to be criticized. But beyond criticizing, I'm going to the main point. We already know what is wrong. People want to know what you are going to do for what is wrong to be restored and what is right to be preserved. I believe that this is what the people want. I congratulate the participation of all the candidates, the government candidate, the traditional candidates, and I ask them from the bottom of my heart that we respect Venezuela with an elevated language, that we do not base the campaign on denigrating our opponents. During his registration, presidential candidate Claudio Fermin for the Solutions for Venezuela party affirmed that he will carry out an electoral campaign marked by respect, proposals, and solutions for the nation. On behalf of Solutions for Venezuela, I pledge myself to the country to carry out a respectful electoral campaign, a campaign that takes advantage of these 4 short months to make proposals, to point out alternatives, to contribute with solutions, and I'm also convinced that not only the proposals in which we believe, not only in the ability to implement support and to convene alliances for these proposals, but the climate that we will be able to preserve. Venezuela's Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced the creation of a high state commission against fascism and neo-fascism. In her X account, Rodriguez wrote, President Nicolás Maduro decided to create a high state commission against fascism and neo-fascism to submit to the National Assembly a bill against fascism and all neo-fascist expressions in the exercise of politics and national life as soon as possible. This in attention to the facts of violence that the country experienced in 2014, 2015, 2017, as well as the serious consequences for the country's economy, sovereignty and territorial integrity compromised by extremist factors that took over the Venezuelan parliament in 2015 to strip Venezuela of its resources and create internal destabilization, and finally, in consideration of the international situation whose peace and stability are threatened by neo-fascist expressions festering in centers of power at the service of the global north. In Venezuela, neither fascism or neo-fascism will succeed. In Ecuador, Brigitte Garcia, mayor of Caton Municipality of San Vicente, and her communication director, Javier Lur, were murdered this Sunday in the department of Malawi. The murder was confirmed by police authorities who found two bodies in early morning hours with no vital signs and gunshot wounds inside a vehicle. Details are unknown so far, so security forces began investigations to determine the causes and responsibles for the double crime. It is worth remembering that Garcia was elected mayor by the Citizen Revolution Party at the age of 26, being the youngest mayor in the country. On Sunday, Argentine citizens held a new march for memory, truth and justice as they commemorated 48 years of the beginning of the last civil-military dictatorship. Human rights organizations, political parties and social movements called to march throughout the country under the slogan, "Never Again State of Terrorism." The epicenter of the mobilizations were Plaza de Mayo in Buenos Aires. The day was expected to be one of the most massive in the 40 years since the return of democracy. In addition to the historic condemnation of the systematic plan of kidnappings, torture and disappearances, and demand for trial and punishment of those responsible, this year activists reject as well the negationist and declarations and the neoliberal economic policies of Javier Milei's government. Brazilian federal police arrested 3 people accused of masterminding the murder of human rights activist Marielle Franco and her driver Anderson Gomez in 2018. Federal Deputy Chiquinho Brazao, the counsel of the Rio Court of Accounts Domingo Brazao, and the former head of the civil police, Rivaldo Barbosa, were arrested this Sunday morning. In addition, 12 search warrants were issued at the headquarters of the Rio Civil Police and at the Courts of Accounts. The measures were ordered by the Supreme Court, which has been supervising the investigation for more than a year after about 5 years of standstill. Brazil's Minister of Justice, Ricardo Lewandowski, stressed that the underlying motive for the murder of Councilwoman Marielle Franco was opposition to her idea of using the land for social purposes. It shows at least the underlying reasons for the assassination of Councilwoman Marielle Franco, who was in opposition to this group in the Municipal Chamber of Rio de Janeiro that wanted to regularize lands to be used for commercial purposes, while Marielle Franco's group wanted to use these lands for social purposes, for popular housing. Monica Benicio, who was Marielle Franco's partner, denounced obstacles by the Brazilian justice system to avoid solving the case.
Of course, we are saying that it was the murder of a councilwoman, of a parliamentarian, and the democratic rule of law needs a solution. It needs justice to be upheld. But there is no doubt that there was interference, and as the difficulties show, the interference was not due to the incompetence. It was due to complicity, so that this case would not have a solution.
Agatha Arnaud's widow of Anderson Gomez, who was the driver of activist Marielle Franco, recalled that no objective answer has yet been given to the case.
There is still no objective answers to the motive. It is not yet closed. We do not have the whole story, and to see that the people accused as the perpetrators hush us, kiss us, and promise us. They talk about being friends of Marielle, that they had worked with her. This is a slap in the face.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Russian authorities confirmed the completion of rescue operations at the Crocus Hall City Council venue following the terrorist attack that killed 182 people and wounded 154 others. Moscow Regional Governor Andrei Vorovyov said that the search for the dead will continue until debris removal work is completed. It is so that 50 of the more than 100 dead have been identified, while 107 of the injured remain in hospitals. On the other hand, the Ministry of Emergency revealed that the fire after the terrorist attack affected almost 13,000 square meters of the infrastructure. On Sunday, Russia observed a national day of mourning after the terrorist attack in Moscow Concert Hall. President Vladimir Putin stressed that Russia will bring to justice the perpetrators of the terrorist attack and the puppet masters behind the deadly attack. The citizens of Moscow set up a memorial near the Crocus City Concert Hall where they bring flowers and toys. In other regions, people lit candles in memory of the victims of the terrorist attack. Citizens of Mariupol erected a monument to the memory of the victims of the attack. In Moscow, subway stations, candles are displayed on information screens. The inscription reads, "We mourn." In this context, President Vladimir Putin lit a candle in the church of Novo Ogaryovo in memory of those killed in the Moscow Crocus Concert Hall terrorist attack. The Russian head of state accused Ukraine of involvement in the terrorist plot as routes were prepared for the attackers to flee to Ukraine. Putin also praised the work of security forces in rescuing survivors. The Russian president emphasized that Russia has a deep understanding of the terrorist threat and urged other nations to join Moscow in the quest to eradicate international terrorism. Pope Francis expressed his condolences to the Russian people this Sunday on the occasion of the terrorist attack on the Crocus City Hall concert venue. "I assure you of my prayers for the victims of the cowardly terrorist attacks committed the other afternoon in Moscow. May the Lord welcome them in His peace and comfort their families and convert the hearts of those who protect, organize, and execute these inhumane acts that offend God, who commanded, 'Thou shalt not kill.'" In Russia, at least one person was killed and 4 others were injured after a Ukrainian missile attack in the port city of Sebastopol. According to local authorities, the Russian anti-aircraft defense managed to intercept and shoot down several air targets. However, the headquarters of a naval infantry brigade was hit, which led to the closure of the Kerch Bridge, a crucial link connecting the peninsula with the Russian territory. According to local media, damage to several vessels in Sebastopol has also been reported. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that his country will continue to act as it has been doing so far to ensure that Ukraine does not threaten the security of its territory and citizens. In Senegal, the opposition candidate Bassirou Diomaye Faye leads the vote after the presidential elections held on Sunday. In this sense, preliminary results show that Faye, candidate of the Patriots for Senegal party, currently has 56.7% of the votes, while Amadou Ba from the Benno Bokk Yakaar coalition had 31.4%. The election day passed without serious incidents, in spite of the controversies surrounding the elections, which were scheduled originally for February 25th, and whose postponement led to violent protests. Elsewhere, as the Electoral Commission reminded that the proclamation of the results is the sole responsibility of the authorized bodies, while Amadou Ba insists that a runoff will be necessary to determine the winner. In Malawi, President Lazarus Chakwera has declared a state of disaster in 23 districts of the country hit by a dry spell caused by El Niño. According to the Malawian leader, close to 2 million farming households and 749,113 hectares of maize, representing 44.3% of the national crop area, have been affected by the harsh conditions. The head of state said other important crops such as rice, soya beans, cowpeas, and groundnuts have also been affected. The President asked national and international organizations, the United Nations family, the World Bank, and all other well-wishers to offer help. In Cuba, efforts continue to deal with the damages caused by the heavy rains that hit the western part of the country. After a meeting with authorities in the capital city of Havana, Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel gave guidelines for immediate recovery actions. These actions are focused on the collection of debris and the re-establishment of water and electricity services. In this regard, social organizations of the Caribbean nation began to collect donations such as food, cleaning supplies, household items, clothes, footwear, and other resources that will contribute to the recovery of the affected families. We have a functional break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin American and Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Functional break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Palestine, at least 9 people were reported to have been killed during a new bombing in the city of Deir Al-Balah in the center of the Gaza Strip. Local sources reported that bodies were removed from the rubble of a house that was attacked by the Israeli occupation forces, most of them belonging to women and children. In the meantime, rescue teams continued the search for the missing. Since last October 7th, the Israeli occupation army continues its aggression against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. To date, 32,226 people have been killed and more than 74,000 wounded, while the enclave has been subjected to massive destruction and an unprecedented humanitarian crisis. Also in Palestine, Israeli occupation forces attacked residential areas in the city of Rafah, southern Gaza, killing 10 Palestinians, most of them women and children. The target was a residential building located in the eastern part of Rafah. Occupation planes bombarded the structure with air missiles. According to local media, in addition to the dead, dozens of wounded were reported, who were transferred to the European hospital to receive medical attention. For the time being, the work of rubble removal, search and rescue of those affected continues. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, more than 32,000 Palestinians have been killed since October 2023.
At
2 o'clock in the morning, we were surprised by the violent attacks. 2 missiles fell on the building. I could see everything through the window. It was like the building collapsed completely. After 5 minutes, we realized the whole disaster that happened. It is a catastrophe. It was both the surprise factor and the panic for what is happening. We always thank God. There were no windows or door left. The building is severely damaged. It is our destiny. So far they have announced that there were 10 martyrs and no less than 16 wounded. It is feared that this number is higher. Under the rubble there are more than 7 people missing, as this building housed between former inhabitants and displaced people, no less than 30 people. In a new war crime, the Israeli occupation army besieges Nasser and Al-Amal hospitals located in Han Yunis, south of Gaza. The Palestinian Red Crescent denounced on Sunday that the Israeli forces besieged the hospitals with heavy shelling and shooting. It also pointed out that dozens of armored vehicles surround both hospitals and carry out excavation works in the surroundings. The organization added that all of its teams are currently in extreme danger. On February 15th, the Israeli occupation forces attacked the Nasser hospital in a 10-day offensive, during which they killed dozens of displaced persons, medical personnel, and patients inside the compound. In India, Hindu devotees and enthusiasts flocked to markets this weekend in search of color powders, sweets, and other traditional supplements common for Holi to be celebrated this Monday. The festival, also known as the Festival of Colors, takes place mainly on the full moon day in March. It celebrates the arrival of spring, and participants throw color powder at each other as a sign of love and friendship. Bonfires are also lit to symbolize the burning of evil, and traditional sweets are shared to foster a sense of community and togetherness. Holi, in addition to its interpretation in the sacred Hindu scriptures, has its roots in ancient Indian agricultural rituals and practices, and is also believed to be dedicated to fertility and the blossoming of new life. The Palestinian kufiya is recognized worldwide as a symbol of the struggle of the Palestinian people. The attire is a scarf whose use has been popularized in recent decades to reach, to the surprise of many, the catwalks of haute couture. The typical piece of white cloth with black or red motifs, which became common on the international media scene thanks to the leader of the Palestine Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat, has also inspired fashion designers who have taken it to many fashion shows and collections. One of the most recent episodes came from Egyptian designer Mohamed Noor, who in the heat of the current Israeli offensive against the Gaza Strip, denounced by countries, organizations and personalities around the world, presented a collection for 2024 under the title of Libre, in which all the pieces are appropriated and recreate the aesthetics of the kufiya. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.